Okay, let's talk about the third revolution in
Okay.
publishing, right? Because we discussed two revolutions. The third one is you're still doing level C, obviously, but you have so much time that you keep writing. And your next chapter, which is Octavo, is a book. It's revolutionizing publishing model again, and it's not about design, or I mean,
It
it's
is
not a
actually.
business book anymore, right?
No, no,
Um,
no.
it's a design
I'm
thriller, right?
exploring another way of teaching, another way of inspiring people, not through just the presentation of simple, timeless principles, but by um, putting the principles into a story that people can relate to. Because if you have a lot of principles, you may go out into the world and find out it's very difficult to apply them because there are things that resist whatever moves you make. They get resisted. People don't go
Yeah.
along with you. They don't see the same point. That is part of it. That's part of designing anything, is the resistance that you have to overcome. Because if you want to change anything, there's going to be a whole lot of things stopping you from doing that. The world does not like to change. Um, they like it when it happens because it releases opportunity, but they really resist it. So, how do you do that? That's the thing. So I like to put it in a story because it shows not only what the principles are, but how to overcome resistance to change. So with Octavo, I don't think I'm revealing too much if I say that it is a story within a story. It's a fictitious story about Leonardo da Vinci, written by his last pupil, who was 15 at the time, about about 1 year in Leonardo's life when he was trying to get his notebooks published. He failed. He never got his notebooks published, and it was a tragedy. The tragedy of his life was that nobody knew what he was doing, and they didn't get the benefit of his thinking until 200 years later, when his notebooks were just finally appreciated, and they got out into the world. Some of them, not all of them. A very small proportion got out. So that interested me, that the world changed because no one had seen what he was doing, except for his paintings, which they really didn't understand. They needed to see his notebooks to understand how he thought.
Yeah.
So that I turned that into a mystery about why his books, it's fictitious, but it's based on a lot of what I know about Leonardo and the research that I did. And then there's a modern story that envelops that, of two women that find the manuscripts and script and decide, if they don't get it published, Leonardo will be slighted again, and once again, we'll lose more of his inspiration. More of his ideas will be lost because it didn't get published. And so they find it and they got to publish it. And to do that, they have to steal it. And because they've stolen it, they're in big trouble. They're on the run. So it's a thriller, basically. But in the process of reading the book, you learn a lot. Right. So you do learn a lot about the Renaissance, and you learn a lot of things about Leonardo, but it would be hard without knowing the history of Leonardo. You wouldn't know which is true and which isn't. But a lot of it's so true that I think any scholar of Leonardo would be smiling when they read it, because they'd recognize all the things that were true and how cleverly they were put together. And they'd also know what wasn't true, and they would probably get a kick out of that. Or they'd be really pissed off that I was playing around with some of the facts. But mostly the background is true. I'm using the story to bring you right into Leonardo's world, right into his studio, his relationships, his way of thinking, which there's no information on that. You'd have to just guess at it based on the notebooks and of what people had said about him, but there were no letters. He didn't write a lot of letters. Nothing outlived him. So you have to interpolate a lot of that. but I felt through my research that my experience as a designer prepared me for understanding exactly what he was doing. And yes, he was a genius, but there are a lot of geniuses. And he may have been the biggest genius, maybe the biggest genius of all time, but he was a real person, right? It wasn't just magic, right? And what he did is attainable by a lot of people if they wanted to do it. So, okay, what did he do? How did he do it? What enabled him to get so far with his ideas? That to me is really interesting. So I have that story written by his pupil, um, telling the whole story, and then I have the story of two women who are trying to get the book published, talking with their publisher, their editor, and filling in the gaps from their research. Because if I just had the 15-year-old kid writing the story, he wouldn't be explaining everything, right? I mean, because everyone would
Yeah.
know that what was going on at the time. He would tell a story, and you'd be going, "I don't get it." So you need to like know what's going on behind the scenes. So that was one thing that I did differently with the book, but everything about the book, including how I intend to get it to market, is going to be an experiment. And I
Let's
think it's
talk
time.
about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what did you decide to do with the book and like how it is being published.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
let's
So
dive
to
into
start
more
out with,
layers.
I was satisfied with doing just the book in the beginning, and I just wanted to get a publisher like everybody else. But in the process of finding a good match for the book, finding a good publisher, I learned a lot about the book, about the times we live in, about publishing itself, and eventually I realized that publishing has to change. That it's collapsing. The model that we've depended on for the last 100 years or so, maybe 500 years, maybe going all the way back to the Renaissance, is crumbling, and you can see it because nobody's really making that much money in publishing except for the superstars, and they were already superstars before. They're
Yeah.
not. They brought their stardom to publishing. So, what's happening is publishers are having difficulty making a good living. People are not reading as much. They're not reading as much because the books aren't as fascinating or daring as they used to be. But they're not willing to be the ones to make the daring books because it's easier to copy what other people are being successful at than to take a chance, take a risk. What kind of risk are they taking? They're spending a lot of money up front. They're giving somebody an advance, which they may not get back. They're paying, a few $100,000 maybe to print the books. They're paying for distribution. They have a sales force. They have a big marketing budget that they have to apply to this if they really want it to sell. Otherwise, it's just going to piddle along. So they have to invest a lot up front, not knowing if it's going to sell. Well, what do you do if you run a business like that where you're afraid of the risk? You don't want to lose any money. You know you're going to lose some. Some books just aren't going to work out. But at the way it's going now is only 1 out of 5 books is successful. So you're going to have 4 books that lose money and 1 book that makes up for the other 4. That's just sort of my rough take on this. So what do? You play it safe. You go
Which
for
is
the one that you know,
exactly
right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't take any chances. You look for people that have giant audiences already that will buy the book no matter what. So you get a celebrity, or you get somebody who's got a whole series of books and they've built their audience over time. You just take it. You take that audience and you make money off it for doing your part of the deal. You don't really take too many chances on new authors, especially if their books do something that is new. New is bad for publishing.
Yeah. And
Um,
this entire conservative mindset is exactly what has just brought the Hollywood industry down, right?
and the same with Hollywood, same with music, same with all the arts,
Exactly.
all the art, all the institutions in general, but including all the creative institutions are crumbling because the model no longer works, and they're afraid or They're either afraid of doing something different, or they're locked into what they're doing and they don't know how to do something different. But certainly they've part of their job description is not to innovate. They've never had to. They just followed the model. They followed it all the way down as it started to collapse. And now all they have left is celebrities. So, I mean, I'm simplifying here, but because there's some books that just come
It's
out of
useful.
nowhere and are, but yeah, it's useful. This is a useful way to think about it. All right. First of all, I was lucky to find a publisher right away for Octavo, and it looked like a really great thing because they were trying to reinvent publishing, and that's what I wanted to be involved with. So they were going to reinvent it by treating every book as not a book but a story, and then a story that can be told in many different ways, all the way up to and including TV series. And they wanted to own that whole thing, the whole process,
Yeah.
building the audience, and all the way up to producing the movie, or probably more like a streaming series.
Yeah.
I thought that's great, and they saw my book as the poster child for their business. And but the problem was it was upside down. It was top down. They thought they could imagine all the parts they needed from their experience, because they're very experienced, and then make the devices necessary to do what they wanted to do. Instead of doing it from the bottom up, let's try a device and see if it works.
Yeah.
Like they want to do interactive ebooks where you could share your ebook experience with other people, right? You could have like automatic book clubs around each a story. Great idea. Problem is they'd never done it before, and they had to raise a lot of money to do it. And then the people they were talking to had never seen anything like that. And they go, how do we know this is going to work? Well, just trust us. It'll work if we have the money, but you haven't done anything yet. Yes, but we need the money. It just goes around and around. And after 4 years of this, I just said, I cannot wait any longer. I'm too old to wait for you to get your company together. I have to do this myself. I'm sorry. I love you guys, but so I took
Yeah.
the book back. They gave it to me. I started seeing all the experiments that other people were doing using Kickstarter and all kinds of stuff to raise money. And these are all very interesting, but none of them came together as a total business model for me. And so that's what I started thinking about. And I think now I have a good a model to test. So I have a hypothesis. It makes sense intellectually. The problem is you have to prove it. So I'm proving it now, little by little, and I may have some parts left over that just really didn't pull their weight. So if that happens, then I'll slim those down, I'll streamline those, or take them out and just use the parts that are really working. But overall, here's the answer to the problem. Traditional publishers today are doing it backwards. They're spending all the money up front with no assurance that they're going to succeed, and then finding out later that it didn't work, because they really don't know what's going to sell. Even if it's a celebrity, they can spend millions on an advance for a celebrity and not make the money back. They're believing in their own instinct and tradition to do all the work, and actually it doesn't. So what they need to do is what Silicon Valley does. Silicon Valley would never
Exactly.
do anything like that. Silicon Valley says, a venture capitalist would say, okay, show me your idea for a business. Okay, well, I'll tell you what we're doing. Here's a slideshow. This is what we have. This is what we want to do in the world. And then the venture capitalist would say, well, I've never seen that before. So if that was a success, that would be great, except there's risk because we've never seen that work. So why don't I give you $1,000 and you come up with a little business plan. Show me how you're going to pull this off. The two guys that are working in their garage or whatever, two women maybe this time, come
Yeah.
back and they say, okay, here's our business plan. And they look through the business. Okay, well, there's a lot of assumptions here. This has to happen before it'll ever work. So why don't we work on those assumptions? We'll give you $10,000 and you come up with a model, and let's test it with people and see if it really has what you think if it does what you think it's
It's
going to do.
like incremental innovation model.
Incremental. It's called stage
Yeah.
gate innovation. You have stages, and you don't go through the gate until you complete that stage. So $10,000, you come up with a model. The two women come back with a model, and it works pretty good. Maybe it needs a little bit of improvement, but it's promising. So the venture capitalists say, okay, I've already spent $11,000. I'm going to give you $100,000 now to try this out in the market, do a little test in the market and see if it works in real life. If it works in real life, okay, here's some millions you're going to work with, right?
Yeah.
But if they decide at $10,000 or $11,000 that it doesn't look promising, that's it. They've only lost $11,000. Well, the publisher has lost everything as soon as they put the book out. They've sunk it all in, not
Yeah.
knowing
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
going to succeed. After that, it's easy. I mean, they spent all their money. So naturally, they become cautious. Okay, so what if we reverse that? That was my epiphany. Let's reverse that. Let's say it's very important to have an audience. And every book needs its own audience. So why don't we grow the audience as we write the book? And if the audience isn't interested, we'll just stop that book, put it away, and maybe come back to it later. We'll start another book with a different idea. But we won't spend all this money and time on something that's not going to build an audience. As I write the book, I release it to my early readers. And for free, they read it just because they're interested and they want to be part of a development of a book, right? And they come back with, hey, there's some interesting parts. I thought the ending wasn't very good. And this character, I don't know, it didn't ring true for me. Getting, all kinds of feedback because everybody has a different idea, but it's enough for me to go, that comment feels right to me. I thought it might be a problem. It looks like maybe it is a problem. So, and that over there is a really good idea. I just never thought of that. I'm going to change the ending. So I do it again. It gets better. Suddenly it's tighter, and a lot of the problems with it that people had are solved. And now at that point, I might ordinarily take it to an agent. It's good. I think it's good. It solves a lot of problems. I think it's tight. It's corrected. It's edited, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want to do that because I still haven't built an audience around it. I've got 50 or 100 readers who will probably buy it because they were in the process. How do I get that to be 1,000 readers? Well, finally, the answer came to me when I discovered Substack. For me, it was an opportunity to share the book in a serialized fashion over a period of time, so I have a lot of time to develop an audience, and they can see what I think is a finished book. Now, they may say things like, I happen to know that thing you said is not true about the Renaissance, and I have proof for that. I think that's wrong. Or I don't believe in that. I might find some new things that I can correct because at this stage, it's just a book I'm serializing for free. All right.
Yeah.
And I'm also talking about it behind the scenes with people. So if you're interested in reading the book and you want to talk with me and we can talk about the ideas that the book is bringing up for you, we can do that too. And so we're all getting to know each other. We're getting to know the book, and the book maybe is getting better, or maybe the book's fine. But what I'm doing is finding a core audience of people who believe so much in what I'm doing that they're willing to tell other people. They're willing to leave a review on Amazon, let's say. They're willing to give me advice. They're willing to tell my friends. Maybe they have a book club and they're willing to share it with they believe in it, right? So I've got an audience growing. I also have a sense of whether it's worth it to spend the money to make the book into a real product, right? Now,
Right.
even at that stage, I still have time to change it, and I don't have to spend a lot of money. Now,
Yeah.
this is what traditional publishers don't want to do. They want to put out a hardcover book. The most expensive book you can buy, product you can buy from them, is a hardcover book, and that's what they want to sell you first. And then if it sells, they'll put it out in a cheaper format for all the people who couldn't afford to support the book at
Yeah.
the first stage. All of that is the opposite of what you should do.
And
That's my theory.
it's a double miss because what you're saying brought a question, what is the product? Right? What is the product about? Is it about the book, or is it about the process, about participation,
Well,
about
it's actually more than that.
co-development and all of that,
What
right?
it's really is, it's about the reader. What I'm learning from all of this is that it takes a village to publish a book. The readers are the book. The book is there for them to make stuff out of, like to change their mind or give them information or do something emotional for them that they really love, that will help them in their lives as they determine, their lives. Right. So I want to make sure I can find people who can use the book and be something better because they've read the book. And then they need the book and they need to tell everybody else about the book. Okay. So at the end of the serialization, I own the book myself. I haven't really sold it. Now I can take the book and I can make it into products. So for almost hardly any money, I can make it into an ebook. I can make it into a print on demand hardcover now, or soft cover, or both. And I can make it into an audiobook. Right. And I can have all those products go out at the same time, or I stagger them, or whatever I think is going to work. I think it's best to just hit everybody with every possible choice at once on the same day, but that's me and I might be wrong.
At the
I
same
mean,
time, what's happening is that you have this double layer because there is the book which is being released in a serialized format, but you have all these conversations going on in the meetings in between the chapters, which are
right.
bringing yet another layer, which is a new product in the product ecosystem, which is different to the book,
Okay.
which is inspired by the book.
Right.
So the
So
audience is already writing another book for you.
that they already are. And I'm probably writing it too. So, but this book has to see the light of day. So, I can get that book out for not too much money, in some form.
And they risk
Um,
it.
and take the risk because the risk, I don't have to print a book. All right. So there's that. Now who's going to see the book when you do put it out? Well, maybe your 1,000 fans. That's not enough. Okay. So
No, it's
during
not.
this time, there's another piece you have to put in, and it's going to cost you. During the serialization part, you have to build an audience for the serialization, and you have to expand your core audience from 1,000 to 10,000 or something. The way you do that is with publicity. And that is what the same thing that a publisher is going to do, and you have to do it too. Now, maybe you can figure out a way to do it less expensively than they will. You probably can. Maybe you don't need quite as much to get enough out of it to get the book launched, but you need it because what they'll do is they'll go out and they'll contact um, all the best reviewers, opinion leaders out there, and the influencers, offer them a chance to talk about the book, offer them a chance to do a podcast with me or whatever they want while the serialization is going on. And they can go look at all the responses that the book is getting from the audience. They can see like, wow, people love this book. This is going to be hot when it comes out. I have only so many months to get in on this, but I want to get in on it. I want to be one of the first ones to promote this book because it looks like it's going to be big. That's what you want
Yeah,
to create.
yeah.
Obviously, the book has to be worth it. Whole
So
other problem.
in a broader sense, if like I'm looking at this entire journey, and I can't help but see the circle where your first really successful business and the first revolutionary idea was when you actually started testing designs instead of imposing them on people, right?
That was huge for me. I learned a lot from that. Yeah. Testing is
And yeah, 50
creative
or
people don't like to
60.
test. They like to just do it their
uh,
way and have their fun and then put it out and then they scratch their heads going, I don't know why it didn't work. I think the audience is stupid.
Yeah,
That's their,
the arrogant creative director way.
yeah, right. Exactly. Which is really old school. No, I like to test. So I'm testing the whole time, really, and I'm testing and building the audience at the same time.
So
So
when you
okay, so
were,
the publicity people go out and they bring a lot of attention to it, and there's something to look at. First of all, they can anybody who wants could read a PDF of the book because I don't have to publish it; it just can be a PDF, and they can read it and they can review it. Or they can go to Substack, and in my case, they can read it serialized or read it all the way up to the point that it's been serialized. They can also listen to the audiobook, which I have put some money into because it's inherent in the concept of the book that audio is super important to it. Okay,
and it's
because the whole
wonderfully produced.
thank
The
you, yeah,
pieces you already have out there
yeah.
are a
Anybody right
story
now
on their
can
own.
go see the production and or listen to it, and it's everything I wanted to be and more. But part of it is because the structure of the book is designed as audio. the people, the two women who are telling the story, their part of the story, are doing it through voice files. They're sending voice files to the publisher, and so those voice files are what you're hearing.
Exactly,
You know
and that's
that.
part of the story and this multi-layered structure which you weaved so masterfully. This is really intriguing, but at the same time, I remember myself being positively surprised because I thought, okay, Marty's got a new book, he's publishing it in serialized form, and there will be a VO version. So, okay, I'm gonna hear Marty reading his own book. Not the
Yeah, right.
case. Not the
No,
case,
no, I'm
right?
not
What
in
you
the
did
book.
is like leveling it up.
No, yeah, we took it to the next level. It's basically a movie, an audio movie.
It's so
It's got music. It's just beautifully produced. It's got actors. They're accomplished actors, and they're not reading. They're acting. They're
yeah.
presenting the story as if it's a real story. So that I had to put money into that, and it's not cheap, but but I think it's less than a publisher would. Most publishers would either say, okay, we'll put $300,000 into this production, or they'll say, no, we're just going to have somebody read it because we can't put that much into it. So I can afford to put much less into it, but some money into it to do it because I believe in it. Right. Okay. So there's that angle of this different sort of audiobook that reviewers might be interested in, especially if they're audio reviewers. So again, I'm building up some awareness of the book little by little during the time it's being serialized. On the day it gets published on Amazon, it gets cut. The serialization is cut off. It disappears. You have to buy the book at that stage. You can still talk to me about the book, and I'll be talking about it on my Substack. But no, this is if you didn't get in the beginning as part of the core My Village, you have to pay like everybody else because this creative work must be supported. You just can't. We don't do it
Mm.
for free. So now we're at sort of a medium stage where we've got some inexpensive ways to publish that book out there. It sells itself. It pays for itself as it goes because it's print on demand, or it's an ebook, or it's an audiobook. There's still an opportunity, if this works, to then put out a classically printed offset book with a beautiful hardcover and sell that in bookstores.
Yeah.
So that's the last stage. It's the deluxe thing. If you want the souvenir for this journey, that's it, right? So what I've done is I printed 500 copies of a beautifully produced book that probably you'd never see in a bookstore because it costs $40 a book to print. So I'd have to sell that for quite a bit of money to make my money back. So I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. I'm using the book to sweeten the pot for influencers and reviewers. I want them to see the real book, how it could be. At the end of the cycle, here's what it might look like, a really beautiful
Yeah.
book.
And
And
also amplifying the perceived value because of limited availability, right?
yes, and they're signed and numbered. And so 100 will only 100 will go to reviewers. That's all. 400 of them are reserved for my core people. So the people who subscribe as founding members to Substack, it's kind of like using Kickstarter. You say you've signed up for this month and you get a special signed book or something, right? So if you sign up for Substack as a founding member, which means you pay $150 a year, anytime during that cycle, you sign up for that, you're going to get a signed, numbered copy of this that's not for sale anywhere. It's very limited,
Yeah. Quite
and
an
I'll
incentive.
send it anywhere in the world as part of your subscription. Now I'll have 400 of those to work. I can use them for a lot of different things over time, but I really want to see that book published beautifully in a way that's too beautiful for the bookstore. So that's what I'm doing. So now you're seeing, I think, a picture of publishing as a business around a book rather than a business where you just grab anybody's work and you put it through a machine and it comes out the
Yeah.
other side. And maybe the author makes a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Um,
And for me, it's not about reinventing distribution, it's about reinventing the product because, books have become commoditized. And all the things that you're describing are essentially small but compounding steps towards decommoditization of the book itself, and what the product really is, where the product is it the book, is it the physical copy, is it, what are the layers of value behind that? And for
Well, I
some
think it's
people,
what my
taking part
original.
in the conversation will be right.
I think it's the story rather than the book. I think the story is the
That's just
product,
one of the layers. But
and
look
it's
at
just
how
so
many layers you have, right?
yeah,
You have the,
right.
the beauty of the physical copy, you have the conversations, you have the serial aspect of that,
Mhm.
you have waiting and getting connected because you wait for the next thing.
You
Um,
have a chance to meet people, like-minded people, on
the
Substack, and
community,
and
yeah.
and start sharing book ideas with them. You can learn how to publish something in a new way and give yourself control over your work product. I mean, I think that's the problem, is that with traditional publishers, you're forced to play the game their way, or they just say, no, we don't think it's going to sell. So
But also they
good
don't
luck. Good luck
understand.
self-publishing.
Yeah, yeah. But at the same time, you mentioned, okay, these guys, they did understand that it's not about a single book, it's about the ecosystem. But in
Yeah.
general, the publishing model is broken because they think it's about the book, but it's not about the book because the world has moved on. And everybody who is in marketing these days will tell you, if you have one single product, you're not going to succeed. What is
Right. So the
capable of
publishing
succeeding
industry,
is
that's
a
you're exactly right.
ecosystem of products, right?
The publishing industry got started on this in the Renaissance, that their business was making books and distributing them and selling them piece by piece to people. um, Maybe that's not really the way customers see it, readers see it. Maybe they see it
Yeah.
as a story that's going to change their life, add something important to their life, and that's why it's worth spending time with. If half of the people in the U.S. read one book a year, so obviously that's a big audience, actually, of people that read one book a year. If you can be that book, that's going to be millions and millions of copies. But so how do you do
Well,
that? It's all about there's
chances are
oh
what they are, right? We're at the
yeah,
late stage of capitalism. The winner takes it all, and there is just one or two winners, right? And everybody else, like 99%,
yeah.
will not get
But
their
but that's always been
rewards.
true. It's always been true. The problem is that publishing industry is the most competitive industry in the world. I think I can't think of
Oh,
anything with
come
so many
on.
competitors.
Music? Look at music.
How many albums come out versus how many books a year?
You have 60,000 new songs being published every single day on Spotify.
Okay, what's that? I'd like to know what the numbers are in terms of albums, because then you got a cost factor that's similar to a book. But anyway, there's at least 500,000 books printed a year that are official books, like
Mhm.
published by publishing companies. If you add on the others, it's a huge number of products competing for attention. Now you can say, well, sure, but if I go out to a bookstore, I'm not looking at all the books. I'm only looking for mysteries or biographies or, romances. So that narrows it down. Yeah, but there's a lot of romances to choose from. It's much more than other industries, even restaurants. Movies are pretty much the same if you look at the whole everything that's available on Netflix. Well, it's a lot of competition. So
It is.
obviously there's a lot of books and not enough readers. How do you become the book? Well, first of all, you have to have a book that's worth being that for people.
So you
So
have to
that's
validate it or brute force
and
it the
I
way
think it's
VCs do it
it's a
at
lifetime.
scale.
It's probably a lifetime worth of work of learning to get to that stage. I wasn't able to write a whole book that meant anything until I was 60. You can go to school for it, but that doesn't mean your books are going to be the one. You know what I mean? Maybe you'll get lucky, but it's going to take 10, 20 years before you get good at something like that. So you could lose a lot of money just guessing that your book is going to, or if a publisher says that guy's book is going to sell. Oh yeah, really? Out of all the books available to people, that one. Okay. So the other way to do is to prove yourself to people at every step. Prove yourself to yourself and to your audience, build that audience. And when you're ready, release the book. We know there's going to be very few widely read books. So you want to find out that as soon as you can, before you
Exactly.
just waste your life, writing these books or publishing them.
let me go back to the the Silicon Valley business model, which you brought for a moment, because I'm seeing a very interesting contrast of perspectives here. So you approach the Silicon Valley model from the micro scale, like from the scale of a single startup,
Startup.
right?
Yeah. Every
So
book is a startup.
obviously, yeah. So obviously, there is the staged innovation and minimization of risk and this gradual proving mechanism at play. But if you look at it from at a large scale, um, even with the minimized risk, they are still throwing money at 100 of new startups, and they are losing all this money because one of them will be the unicorn, right? So at a mass
Yeah.
scale, it's it's like the lottery game. And the
Yeah.
difference in perspective is that if you are a publisher or a VC, you know that's the game you want to play and you bet on it and you're fine with it because you know that, with the numbers you will win. But as an author or the founder of a startup, the perspective is different, right? So that's
That's
why
right. Very
you
good.
want to
Very
take
good. Very
your
well spotted. I'm glad you said.
responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, it's your life, and now, if you think about books going back 100 years or something, it was very difficult to get a book published. And often the books that became famous books, let's say Frankenstein, that never went away. I mean, I think that was self-published. Jane Austen's books were self-published. They weren't even successful in her time. But you got to do what you wanted to do her way, and that's why they're still being read. They stand up to the test of time. They're perfect. They haven't been watered down. They haven't been ruined by commercial interests. So if that's what you want to do with your life, you want to do something that's indelible, that's going to last a long time, you're not going to be able to do it very easily through the traditional publishing system because they're going to say it's too different. It's never been successful before. Oh, we know that something else that works better. So we want you to kind of change it to do that. So if you want to stay pure, the only way is to go back to that old model, which is do it your way and then figure out how you're going to get that in the sense, nothing has changed, but we had this period where sort of the golden period where a publisher could be like a machine printing books and they had this formula and they could get your stuff out there and they still did care about the quality of the books and they'd have editors who were so good that they were better than the authors. And they were like, they could take a 1,000-page book and get it down to 400 pages and it'll be better than it was when it was
Yeah.
submitted. They put the money into it and they believed in it. And often they would lose, but sometimes they would win and it would make the whole company. Those days are gone. So the days that are replacing it, I think, are what I'm involved with now. We're just trying to all figure it out. Is that you have to believe in your book and you have to find an audience who believes in it. There has to be substance in the book that makes it last a long time to make it worthwhile, if that's what you want to do. You have to leave something with people. You have to leave them with a better perspective on life or some tools that they can use to uh, achieve their goals, whatever it is, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. But you need to really provide actual value and not just work to a formula.
Which is like a multiple layer verification system. And at the same time, you have to focus on the process and make the process sustainable because it's not about the ultimate reward. I mean, maybe it is at some point, but it's just one of the possible
Well,
outcomes, right?
yeah, that's one of the possible outcomes. It may be that you just learn a lot during the process, like I did with the magazine. The magazine bombed essentially because the business model was wrong, but the work was great. The satisfaction was off the charts. I'm still proud of it. And in the process, I learned how to write a lot of words in a short amount of time and make them better than they were before in the earlier part of my career. So for me, that was definitely worth it. It's a privilege. It's not something that someone's going to hand you. You have to earn it. I had to earn it by having the time to be able to do this. And first I did it by having a studio of people to help me so that I could have a couple days a week to work. And it was a lot of effort to get that studio to run and be successful, but I got it. So then I was able to write books, and then the books became more work and then became more time. And now I'm in a position to write almost full time if I want, and I don't have to worry about Am I going to be able to pay the mortgage or, feed myself? Virginia Woolf said something really smart that stuck with me. You're all writers. You're trying to be authors. Um, don't even try it unless you've got 500 pounds a year and a room of your own. So you have the time, a lot of hours a day, 3, 4 hours a day, maybe, to put into this. If you can't do that, you're not, it's closed to you. So that's what you have to work on first. The 500 pounds a year, however you get it, and the room of your own, the time to do your work, the freedom to do your work. That's a hard truth, but I think that's definitely true in the arts. Same thing with music, same thing with anything.
We talked about the VCs, but at the same time, this is where the parallel breaks because there is this entire industry which is called deep tech, which is generally the problems which are too risky for the VCs to take on because most likely they will not succeed. So VCs rarely touch it, right? But in the world of business, these subjects are generally subsidized by governments. And all this kind of like deep tech research is being funded. Whereas if you're an author, well, you have to fund yourself, right?
You have to fund yourself, or your family has to believe in you and fund you, right? I mean, that's the way it used to be done. I mean, Jane Austen's family paid for her books to be published. Van Gogh um, bought his brother's paintings and got them out to the market, and nobody else was going to do it. So you have to have a sponsor in a sense, or you have to sponsor yourself, which is the best way. And to do that, it could take a lifetime of building up the resources to do that,
Yeah.
unless you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth. But usually the people that are funded at an early age because their parents have money don't end up doing anything that hard, right?
You have to earn it, and then with this comes the wisdom of spending it wisely.
Yeah, that's it. No easy
Marty,
way, and that's why books are valuable. I think it's because a good book took a lot of work to get there.
where can people get involved with your book? Obviously on Substack, the book is Octavo.
Find it under Marty Neumeier, or you can find it under the Substack's name, which is the Scarlet Files.
The
Scarlet is
Scarlet
the main character.
File.
The Scarlet, two T's, Files. That's her name. Because I think there might be more than one book, so I'm not going to call it Octavo because then I'd have to start a new one for the second book. But
Righty.
the Scarlet
Thinking
Files,
forward,
yeah,
designing
thinking
big.
always, whether you do it or not, you have to make a space for it. You have to. So yeah, you can go there and you can read the book and listen to it for free. If you want to learn the secrets behind the book and the thinking behind it, and talk with me and the other people in the community, then you pay $5 a month or $50 a year. I'm trying to make that worth it, obviously. Probably by August, I think the serialization will be done. The whole book will run through it, but it'll stay there. And then October 15th is when I intend to publish all the products. So, and then after that, actually, before the books come out, I will be distributing the very beautiful deluxe books to the founding members. They'll get it in advance of everybody. And then if the books do well in the marketplace, then I will make the effort to put a beautiful printed book into bookstores for that market. But I think at that point that's a smaller audience. I really don't think people need that anymore. They're happy with a print on demand book or a soft cover or an ebook, and that's where we are today. So I have to honor that wish that people have. That they don't want to lug around a bunch of heavy books like I have in back of me. And I think it's useful for people uh, in publishing, in design, in branding, all those kinds of things. They'll see lots of things that they can apply to their
Yeah,
own lives, their
especially
own
that
work.
the stuff I read in the conversations was up to date commentary related to the things happening in the world and in the business
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everywhere around. So it's like
you're right.
the
Things are happening right and left, but also the book itself has a lot of ideas in it that are real, that shed light on today's situation. So the Renaissance is very much like the position we're in today, where an old world is ending
it
and a new world is starting, and
obviously
it's brutal in the
it
Renaissance.
is.
But also it's full of opportunity and beauty. So how do we get the best out of that? And so that's my concern with the book. It's like, let's apply these lessons 500 years later to our world and what's possible,
And ask some good questions.
and ask some very good questions.
Marty, it has been a pleasure. We
Also,
went
Patrick,
for quite a
yeah,
good while.
yeah, you might want to cut this down, but it was just so much fun talking with you. So thank you for asking the tough questions and also listening well. And you also have a very good grasp of the meaning of things in the moment, which I find very rare. So I hope you keep doing this.